Would you ever use gear? It's a good question. Excuse me. Oh, it's a bit hot in there. That's the downfall of having a conservatory. Right now it's boiling. But yeah, hi guys. Welcome to the video. So yeah, it's around 11:20 AM, I think, around that right now. About to have my pre-workout meal. It is push day, and it's also going to be a video where we go through questions as well. So pretty good video today. I'm pretty excited to do this. Got a lot of questions on the Instagram, so we're going to go through them through the day, kind of through my session as well. Like, we won't do a usual push session where it's like every exercise shown and a full in-depth run through of my session. I'll show you bits of that, we'll film it, and then I'll also go through questions around it, maybe on the way to the gym as well. Got my pre-workout meal here. Ruby made this sweet and sour chicken, which is really nice. I think it adds like 10 grams of carbs, and there's no veg. I don't have any veg in the fridge, and I'd like to say that's a coincidence that I'm peak off season and that's happened, but it's probably not. But I'll buy some veg. I do usually have veg, but just the heat right now is like, I'm quite happy there's no veg in here, to be honest. But I think I should probably invest in a greens powder, but they don't quite do the same thing as actual greens veg, but yeah, probably should. But yeah, I'm gonna eat this and then we'll go through some questions. Do you have anxiety before a workout? Yes, I do sometimes, but not. I used to get this like a lot more, but yeah, I don't get too anxious before going into the gym. Compared to when I used to play rugby, I'd get really anxious before playing rugby. Mainly because it's like no one's really watching you, caring about what you lift other than yourself. So like I always remind myself like this is my own journey. So that helps me a bit. But when I'm going in there and I don't know, let's say I'm about to, like when I attempted 260 on deadlifts, yeah, I was a little bit nervous, like 100%. I was nervous, like I was thinking about it in my head for a week before I did it. I was like, shit, is it gonna happen or not? Because it's at that level of like fear of like, what if it just doesn't move, and you really want it to, and then the anxiety does build up before the set, and it's about using that anxiety to your benefit. So when you go in and attack that set, like you're switched on, and you do have a level of aggression required to make it move, because you do need aggression, you do need to want it, but at the same time it's about channeling that aggression to a point in which it's not going to take away from the quality of the set you do, and your bracing and things like that as well. The best way of approaching it is, before you go to the gym, put some music on you love, take some pre-workout, get into like a move to train where you're just so excited to lift, and you'll be more excited, I think, than anxious. That's what I do now. Thoughts on height, in terms of changing your approach to training based on height. So yeah, I think you will notice, I wouldn't really look at someone's height and program them massively differently, but what you will notice is the ability to do certain exercise will differ. Let's take a stiff leg deadlift, for example, and it's not specifically height, it's limb length, and it's like long legs versus arm length. So if you have really long legs or really long torso and you have very short arms, you're going to struggle to do a stiff leg deadlift, and you might need to pull off like a small block, just because of how far you have to like reach to pull from the floor. Your upper back might start to round, you might get thoracic rounding, and it might be difficult to do that. So yeah, there are certain exercises that will differ based on your biomechanics, absolutely, and limb length. So it's not just height, it's the proportions, and also like the amount of training volume set up for a client based around their weak points, because their weak points are always sort of affected by their height. So do you have weak legs because you've got very long legs? And that's often a scenario where you need to run higher volume on legs or higher frequency on legs for people that have longer legs. So yeah, I wouldn't say specifically it's like, oh, taller people need to do this and that. It's a very person dependent process, and there will be things that you will adjust in terms of exercises and volume based around their muscle groups, really. These are my summary EAAs, snow cone and then lemon. So I kind of alternate between these, but they're pretty good for summer. Innova Farm is the GOAT EAA if you want like a nice tasting one. The panel is stacked in this one, almost like so much, it's almost like more than you need. And then this is like definitely all you need still. You don't need like crazy amounts of leucine and stuff, but yeah, this will do the job if you want like a cheaper EA, but if you want something that tastes insane, this is the one. You can get both at Elite Subs UK, £10, as always. £10 of that. Like I said, you don't need crazy amounts. And to be honest, like EAs, they're definitely beneficial, but I wouldn't say they're necessary, especially in like a growing phase. The time when I would say an EAA is very useful is in prep, when you're dieting, when you've got more muscle protein breakdown occurring due to being in like a catabolic state. That's when stuff like this is very useful. But I always use it all the time because it's like there's like no stone left unturned sort of thing. I always want to be ticking those boxes. Sweet. I always forget to do this, but I needed to do my EAs the day before. You put it in the freezer. It would be perfect right now, but yeah, forget. So we'll do some more questions en route to the gym right now. So may as well just do a couple on the way. So Pete, if you read out a question, I'll answer.
What's your current macros / calorie?
So off the back of my head, this might not be like exact. Roughly, and don't calculate the macros to calories because it could be a little bit off. It is around training days 575 grams of carbs, like 65 grams, 70 grams of fat, and then 260 grams of protein, which is roughly 4,000 calories. And then my non-training day is 525 grams of carbs, and then 85 grams of fat, 230 grams of protein roughly. I think that's like around 3,700 calories. I'm quite fortunate, like I don't have to push food. I really don't. I don't have a very adaptive metabolic rate, so we increase food and body weight can just continuously climb at a nice steady pace. We don't need to increase food that often. I think I've had like 3 increases to food throughout the whole my off season, and similarly on prep I had like 3 drops to food throughout the whole prep. So it's quite funny that it's like exactly the same. But yeah, it makes my life easier because pushing loads of food in right now in the heat is not fun. So yeah, not too high, but high enough.
Top tips for peak week?
So top tips for peak week. So basically for peak week, you wanna not take any risks, in my opinion. So my best advice for setting up a good peak week is giving yourself a week through prep. Hopefully you can do this if you're not trying to chase fat loss too much. You're in a good position where you run like a devolume week, similarly to what you would do for a peak week, and then you also run a diet break where you do maintenance calories. You can run data off that and see how your body responds in terms of body weight, see how much weight goes up by, and see how it correlates with the physique. You can also run assertive refeed days, and you could do like 2 high days and see how much your body weight goes up by. If your body weight goes up by 2 kilos and you look better, you know that that's roughly what the ballpark you want to get to for your show. If it goes up 3 kilos and you look even better, you know you need to gain 3 kilos of body weight. If you gain 3 kilos of body weight from an aggressive refeed and you look watery, you now know you've gone a little bit too far. That gives you an idea of how much body weight to gain. And then in terms of when you go into peak week, you literally just replicate that strategy. I like to do a linear load, so you progressively increase food throughout the week steadily, giving yourself enough time to land fullness without having to create any digestive issues through doing like a rapid backload. So steadily increase food. That's less stressful for the client. It also means the stomach isn't as wide because you're not putting loads of food in at once. And then water, sodium is the exact same thing. Run a plan before, see how your body responds, not body weight, see how your visual body responds, see how you look, and then go off that, and then just try and replicate that on show day. I would say, like with water and sodium, a lot of people like to cut water, cut sodium. The truth is, when you do things like that, you're minimizing fluid within your whole body, which is going to make the muscle cells smaller. So it depends on what look you're going for. If you want to go for a drier, smaller look, that's when you cut water more. If you want to go for a fuller look, a bigger look, and potentially still a dry look, because you've got more, if you're bigger, you will look leaner, then you put more water in. And it's about finding the perfect amount, very individual process. So yeah, hopefully that helped. He's gonna get one of these. Liz.
Sure.
So, business is booming with the heat wave. Does it help?
A little bit.
Yeah. It's last
Wanna
week.
receipt?
It's all good. Cheers.
Yeah.
Yeah, this actually, I'll go through another question, because I remember seeing a question that related to the heat. The worst part of bulking in summer for me. So, yeah, the biggest issue I'm finding with bulking through summer is literally, like, whilst obviously the sleep side of things is annoying, sweating, being hot, appetite, like that stuff is annoying. The thing that matters the most is performance, right? And the thing I'm noticing right now is, as the session progresses, I sweat a lot. I naturally do just sweat a lot. It's just, I don't know, genetically I just sweat a lot. So as the session progresses, I notice my performance dip a lot. And it's stuff like this that will help you because it's full of electrolytes. So as you're losing electrolytes from sweating, having something that's dense in electrolytes will help. So yes, you can get water in, but this will just help even further. So you can have like hydration supplements. I need to get some, to be honest, that would help if I bought some of them. Right now it's just a game changer because I did pull the other day, I did single arm work. I did my weaker side first. I went on to my stronger side. My stronger side was way weaker than my weaker side because in between I sweated. It shows the difference, so yeah, this will help. Yep.
Yep.
Good. Yes! Come on. Come on, come on. Yours! Come on! Come on! So close, like.
Woo! That's it. Good. Oh, the mic fell off. Oh, those dumbbells were so much easier to handle. Been battling out these stupid dumbbells. Apparently there's meant to be dumbbells coming in 2 months, so hopefully we can use nice dumbbells. There's the question of like, do I stick at it or do I swap it out and then go back to it later? Got to make a decision because them 60s are just not moving nicely. So we'll do some more questions. Would you rather have nipples for teeth or teeth for nipples? Full set. It's a good question. It's a hard one, but when I think about it, who the fuck would want their teeth as nipples? So I'd definitely have nipples for teeth. Full set.
Nipples for teeth?
Imagine your teeth being nipples.
No, but you said you'd have nipples for teeth.
Huh?
Then you said you'd have nipples for teeth.
Oh no.
You want teeth for nipples?
Yeah, it's confusing me, the wording. I'd want my teeth. Oh, wait. Yeah, teeth for nipples. Yeah. Can't figure out this question. Yeah, fuck that. Imagine your teeth being nipples. What the fuck with that? I don't even know. I don't want to imagine that. Good question. But yeah, teeth here all day.
Yes, come on. Drive.
One.
Come on. Yes.
Four. Would you ever use gear? It's a good question. Like, the answer's 99% sure it's a no. Never say never, but really, like, pretty confidently, no. I don't think I really ever will. I'm too invested now into seeing how far I can take my physique naturally. I actually had a client start with me recently. He's 15 years old. He says, like, his dream is to maybe one day go to the IFBB and stuff like that, and maybe go assisted when he's in his mid-20s. And I said to him, like, when I was like you, I thought the same. But once you go further in natural bodybuilding, and you're 5 years into it, and you've seen how far you've took your physique, and you're happy with your physique naturally, you're almost at a place where you're like, why do I want to ruin this? Why do I want to go on gear and then potentially take that card away from myself, like that, being able to say you're natural with a good physique? Because the minute you go on gear, you can never say that again. And you don't know how it will go. Like, maybe you'll go on gear, you'll regret it. Maybe you'll go on gear and you won't respond as well. Maybe you'll go on gear and you'll get addicted to getting massive and end up taking loads and loads and loads and going down a route you didn't really want to go down. So I think if your goal is like so invested in going to the IFBB and going that far, absolutely, like, you need it. But I always think just pursue natural bodybuilding first, see how you feel, because your mind might change. You might love what you're doing naturally and you might just stick at it. And it's a healthier way to go. It also allows me to do bodybuilding for absolutely forever, like if I wanted to, with no health risks really at all. So yeah, pretty much going to be natty for life. Doing the little partials at the end, very nice. That was good. this is a pretty good question. Have you ever tried FST7 training principles? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? So, I actually have had like a few conversations about this. I really believe Hani Rambourg is a great coach, but his whole FST7 thing is done as his like niche. It's a way of him selling himself in a unique way. That's all it is. It doesn't give you more muscle growth. It would not. Like, just posing, flexing in between sets, you're wasting your energy on like the quality of work you could be doing through your sets, which could be creating more mechanical tension, creating more muscle growth. So posing in between sets really hard, tensing your muscle, is not going to give you any benefits to muscle growth. That's not to say he's a bad coach, it's just his selling point. And I think deep down he knows that that isn't going to get his clients bigger. So yeah, that's my thoughts. And Hani Rambourg's a great coach because he's so good at building like great personality, like he's so good at building great personal relationships with his clients. And that's what gets him success. The whole FSC7 thing is just like a way of selling himself, in my opinion. And it makes sense. And I think a lot of the training you see on social media, on YouTube videos of assisted bodybuilders isn't going to be how you should do it. But you don't realise that all those bodybuilders in the background built their muscle from doing the things that we're doing. So, yeah. I don't even know what that's from. Have you ever considered switching to 6 meals a day now that you're pushing food? To be honest, no, I always do 5 meals. I think that, to be honest, it's all relative. You have 5 meals, that means the meals are bigger. You have 6 meals, the meals are smaller. You're eating way more frequently. I think it's better for insulin sensitivity and stuff to have like more time away from like working your pancreas, like your pancreas releasing insulin. So 5 meals gives you a little bit more time. And because I do my first meal without carbs, that works really well for me. I think 6 meals I'll just be like eating too often and it just gets a bit of a chore. And I actually think it's better like to go on and off with protein. It is better. The studies show you want peaks and troughs. And I feel like for some people, they don't manage their time well. 6 meals a day, you're going to find yourself just constantly eating protein. And you're not having these peaks and troughs, you're not having boluses, so it's not coming up. So you're just having like continuous protein throughout the day, and that's not what you want. So I think 5 is the best way to do it, in my opinion. What do you think of pre-exhaustion for legs? So this is actually something I do myself. So I always do like a leg extension, seated leg curl, prior to my squat variations. I think the main benefit for this, in my opinion, is actually stability. I've tested doing squat variations first, and I see the benefit in doing isolations before, because when I go in, I feel my muscle way more, I feel more stable, I can feel my muscle contracting more, there's more blood into the muscle. especially not right now, but when it's cold, there's so much benefit to that, especially. And also you've got to understand that it does work well doing something that challenges the short more first. So if you're doing like a seated leg curl, leg extension before you do a squat, which is more challenging at the bottom in the hole, it is sometimes better to do that at the start. I definitely think it's about preference and what works for you. There's no wrong or right in my opinion. You can squat first, but I think isolations before, get that done first, and then go into like the bigger movements. You'll probably see the more quality out of those isolation work, out of that isolation work, where you'll get a lot of bang for your buck. Like, it's not too fatiguing. It can create a lot of tension and really challenge the muscle well. So that's what I would advise for most people. But then see like what particular exercises affect your squat variations. So maybe adductors, things like that might actually work better at the end for some people, depending on how their squat is. So that's a wrap for that push session. It was pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Lots of progressions, can't complain. But we'll keep going with the questions. This isn't really about the push session that much. So we'll keep going with the questions. Well, I guess I should have said this one earlier because I'm training push, but necessary to specifically train front delts, or are they targeted enough in presses? I literally never train front delts now, and I would say my delts grow enough from presses. I think if you learn how to align well, so shift the upper arm in so you align with the front delt, you don't need to do front raises in my opinion, but like you can see what works for you if you could trial it. At the end of the day, I really believe bodybuilding is about trial and error. So that, just because I don't think you should doesn't mean you should. Give it a go. See how you grow just doing presses. If your front delts are growing enough, you don't need to add it in. If your front delts aren't growing enough, maybe add more volume on your presses. See how that goes. See how your delts look when you get stronger at pressing. And then if they're growing, happy days. If they're not still and you're getting a lot stronger at your presses, maybe then you could try a front raise variation. But in my opinion, I don't do them. So we'll do one more because that was pretty quick. Thoughts on natural test boosters? I've actually never done them, and I can't tell you what my thoughts are because ultimately I've never done them. I've never tried them. It could be interesting to trial one and see like how it goes. Like from my experience, I don't think it's needed. I think when someone takes steroids, someone takes testosterone, think about how much they're taking to increase their testosterone levels into a super physiological range. To do that, you need a lot of tests, and you're increasing your test levels a lot to see the effects on muscle growth. So if you take a test booster, it's not really that important. The only time maybe could be in a prep when test runs low, just keeping it a little bit higher, just for well-being, could be useful. But understanding the effect on muscle growth is going to be minimal. It really will. You've got to realise how much people are taking to actually create muscle growth when you're taking actual testosterone. Like exogenous test, it's a lot. So anyway, let's get back. We're out of bagels, so this is going to have to... What's my favourite colour? Probably like a light blue. You know when you go to a really nice country and the sea's like almost turquoise blue? I say that colour. It's a good cut. It's a decent question. Recommend knee elbow sleeves. Definitely knee sleeves. It will give you more confidence in terms of training hard with a lot of weight. Because it's all good now, but if you get a lot stronger, you'll realise that there'll be a point where you might get knee issues, and that will just help ease that like anxiety around knee pain. Elbow sleeves, again, if you get elbow pain, it is a good move. I think it's not necessary at all, but it is useful. I mean, I use them. I think I do admit, like, I'm kind of stuck in a position now. It's like I don't really want to take my elbow sleeves off because it makes me a tiny bit stronger. So, you know, if I take them off, then I'm regressing. So once you do it, you never really go back. Thoughts on the bodybuilding industry being / Instagram being toxic for consistency with training, nutrition, sleep, for people who have work, family commitments, unrealistic to achieve? I think it's a difficult one because at the end of the day, if you want to progress, there is a level of things you need to tick off, like boxes you need to tick. In terms of nutrition, does need to be ticked off. It just simply does. Like, you're wasting so much progress otherwise. So if you go with a coach and they're telling you need to eat this amount of food to succeed, it's because they know how important it is. So, like, you're not going to get good results as a natural if you're not doing that. Yeah, right, if you take gear, you probably will. But when you're natural, you need to do those things. It's literally impossible to create good amounts of muscle growth for a long period of time without supporting body weight going upwards with good nutrition, tracking your nutrition to do that. How can you move body weight upwards for a sustained amount of time, for a long period of time, if you're not tracking your food? You can't. You'll either go too quick, you won't be in a growing phase for long enough, you'll either go too slow, or if your nutrition is inconsistent, sessions will drop off, some sessions will progress more than others. I think the whole sleep routine aspect, I definitely don't think that needs to be drilled in too much. So I can see why it can be toxic being on Instagram. You see these people being very robotic with what they do, but understanding, like, it says it in the word, bodybuilding industry, like, they're bodybuilders, so that's why they do those things, that's why they preach those things, because they know how important it is for them to do well in bodybuilding. I think it's just like, takes some of that advice with a grain of salt and apply it to your own life and your work and family commitments. But realistically, you can nail nutrition 90% of the time and still move towards your goals. It's just that extra 10% that is based around what those goals are at the end of the day. But really, I think the trouble is nutrition. The reason people drill that in is because it is really important. So I'm not going to lie to you. Like, you do need to tick those boxes if you want to see results. If you don't want to see good noticeable results, then fine. But if you're just training for a bit of fun and you want to build a little bit of muscle, completely fine. Just understanding that that's kind of what you're missing out on ultimately, and that's your decision, and that's completely fine. Things that I would do differently if I was to start this process again. It kind of relates to the last question. I guess I would have tracked my food a little bit sooner. I would have done that when I was younger, so I would have been able to maximise my muscle growth earlier on. Yes, I wouldn't want to do it 100%, but I would have had some understanding of nutrition, because it doesn't make that difference personally, in my opinion, if you understand nutrition and you track it to your life. At the end of the day, I was still eating good foods, it's just I didn't have any clue how to track it. And that would have made a big difference when I was younger. And then also, I guess, compete in my first year and then stop and just spend time in a growing phase, as opposed to competing every single year, is absolutely what I would have done. And also not like just getting lean for summer, which I did before I competed, because that was pointless. Whilst maybe it felt good the first time, you know, you don't need to do that, in my opinion. I could have just held a good composition and trained hard, and my physique would have been better if I did that. Last one, lowest training volume you prescribe. So honestly, this is such a person-dependent process, and the amount of volume you do is based around how hard you can train, how accurately you can train and create a massive stimulus. So you might actually find like your training age and experience actually means you need to do less work, because you can train so well that you're so good at producing a huge stimulus, you can't get away with doing lots of work. So for that situation, like myself, like 3 sets on quads in a session is generally as low as I would take it for myself, because that's all I need to tick that box. Like my barbell squat session, I do squats, 1 leg extension, 1 leg press, and that's all I need. Otherwise I won't recover into my deadlifts. So it really depends on the person, how good they are at creating a huge stimulus, and, you know, their training age, how much they can recover from, how much sleep they're getting. All these things will interfere with how much volume you set, but ultimately those variables need to be in place in terms of training 0 RAR really hard, and you know, with the good intensity and accuracy in place as well. So yeah, I'm going to eat this massive bowl of cereal. Thank you for watching. hopefully you enjoyed the video. We have a different video today doing a Q&A. I don't think I've ever done this before, maybe once, but yeah, not like this before. And we'll keep the content coming. So yeah, like and subscribe. If you're new to the YouTube, drop a subscribe. Weekly uploads will continue, and I'll see you in the next video. See ya.